Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs and today I have this pink and black Valentine's Day card to share with you. So let's jump right in. So as usual, I do like to cut down my cardstock and I do have a piece of black cardstock here just because I like that to be my mat. So I'm cutting it down to be about an 1/8 of an inch smaller than my A2 base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I also have a piece of Strathmore cold press watercolor paper here, and I'm going to cut that to be about 1/4 of an inch smaller than my A2 base, so I have a nice thin layer around the whole card. Now I chose this cardstock, specifically this watercolor cardstock, because I find that it's the best watercolor cardstock that works with the Karin Brush Pro markers. So I'm sure that there are other watercolor cardstocks you could use with this, but that is the one I've found that works the best. So that's kind of the one I go to when I want to use my markers. And I haven't used my markers in a long time. So I thought this would be a really fun time to bust them out and kind of do a watercolor effect with them. So you saw me treat my watercolor cardstock with my anti-static powder tool because I want to clear heat emboss this heart background stamp. So this is from Simon Says Stamp. It's the heart to heart background stamp. I think it's still available. Honestly, I've had it for a while. It might not be. If it is, I will link it down below, but sometimes sadly, stuff goes out of stock and I don't always, or it gets discontinued and I don't know. So I will always try to link to everything that I use in case you're interested, but sometimes you guys know that I'm just a huge believer in using what you have. So I do have a tendency to just grab things out of my stash and use them because why not? But yeah, sometimes that does mean that they are discontinued items. So just be aware of that. If you can't find it down below, it's because it no longer exists in the store. And that's why I usually try to find something that's similar to what I'm using, but sometimes there just isn't really anything quite similar. So sometimes I just link to the background stamp section so you can go and check it out and find something that kind of suits your style instead of what I've used exactly, but completely up to you. So as I said, I did clear emboss that. I didn't white clear emboss it, but I stamped it in black because I really wanted a strong border around my hearts. And I chose to heat emboss this just because that creates kind of a well around your stamping so that it's easier to keep the colors together, because they overlap so much that I'm going to end up glazing most of my colors. So because of that, I chose to heat emboss it so that I had a little more wiggle room around it. Otherwise, all the colors would just meld together and I'd have to either wait or heat set every time I wanted to paint a heart. And I didn't want that to, take that quite that long. It took me about half an hour, I'd say, to watercolor the whole panel. This is quite sped up. This one heart alone right here, you see this, I've sped this way up. I think I sped this up 4 times faster than I actually watercolored. So keep that in mind. This is not real speed or anything. I'm going to show you some of the process. I'm going to do them all the exact same. So I have 2 paint brushes that I'm using and 2 little jars of water. And I bring in the larger paintbrush and I just add water because that gives me a lot of movement. And then I bring in the second brush and I kind of move the pigment around so I don't have huge clumps of color just sitting there. That's pretty much what I do for this whole panel. And I have 5 colors of the Karin Brush Pro markers pulled out. These were just different shades of kind of like a pinky purple and a purpley red and that kind of thing. So I kind of just chose colors that I thought would look really good together. In the end, because I glazed some of the colors with the other colors, they kind of end up looking similar. So I didn't get quite as much color definition as I was hoping, but I still think this panel turned out just really pretty. So I was pretty excited about it. But the 5 colors I used, I will give you the name and the number just in case that's of interest to you. So I assume it's Cerise 375. It looks like cherry in French, but I'm not actually sure if that's true. And then I have 181 lipstick red, 359 magenta, 358 red lilac, and 075 burgundy. And those are the colors that I used for this. But honestly, you guys, if you pulled any reds and pinks, this would look cool. I mean, you could do this in a monochromatic look too, and I think that would be stunning. I really wanted to do something very Valentine's Day themed, just because it's kind of fun to bust out a very pink palette I did, of course, include some red in this just to give some variation, because why not? Even though red is generally not a color I'm drawn to quite a bit. I know that my nails are red right here, but that's because I honestly go through the rainbow with my nails. So I have to try all the colors eventually, right? So my nails are currently red in this video, but generally when I create, I am more drawn to pink than red. So it's always kind of fun to just bring in different colors. And that burgundy color is a really fun color. Sadly, like I said, because I end up doing washes, because all the hearts kind of sit on top of each other, I do lose a little bit of the definition, but I don't mind. I still think the panel turned out really cool. So let me know what you think of this. And of course, you could also obviously use, different water-based markers or actual watercolor pans. You could totally do this several different ways. I just thought the Karin markers would be a lot of fun because I own them and I haven't used them in a while and I just really wanted to bust them out. So that is what I was thinking here. And then there are a few little areas that there's no heart in. And I thought it would be really fun to just color that in black, just to make that pink and red really pop against the background. So I brought in my 100 black Copic marker and I just went over those small little areas. I wasn't really concerned about this. You can buy replacement nibs. So on the off chance that, the embossing or the cardstock wasn't really great for this, you can, and I have no problem just replacing the nib on my marker. Like I want to use my items however I want to use them. So in this case, I really wanted to use it for this because I thought it'd be really cool. But just be aware that you probably shouldn't use it on this paper because it's not really Copic safe, but I don't know. I do what I do. I'm a rebel, I guess. And then that area at the top there, technically that is a part of a heart, but I just wanted a little more black in the image. So I left it so that I could color it in. Technically it should be pink, but whatever. I'm a rebel, like I said. And I just really wanted a little more black to kind of help those pinks and reds really pop. So those are kind of the areas. And I am matting it on a black cardstock as well, so I can really bring that black in and have it really frame this card. And of course, because, this is any excuse to use glitter, and I feel like Valentine's Day is a good one for that. I did bring in some of the perfect pearls I have mixed up in a little bottle and splash those across the background just all over the place. And then I'm going to adhere it to my mat and kind of weigh it down. You don't see it, but there is a little bit of warping to the card here. So I did bring in my Misty, or to the panel, sorry. I did bring in my Misty just to hold this down while it adhered, because I was worried that with that warping, some of the corners might not want to adhere well. So I did bring that in just to weigh this down a touch after I had it lined up and liked where it was sitting. So you can always weigh it down with whatever you want to weigh it down with. And then for my sentiment, I brought in this is one of the Tim Holtz alphabet dies. I believe it's the alphanumeric stretch upper dies. I'll link it down below. I'm sure it's still available. And I cut it out of black glitter cardstock for the main top piece of my sentiment. And then I'm also going to cut it 3 more times out of just the plain black cardstock so that I can give it some depth and height, because I thought that would just look really cool. And I left this little clip in because, of course, Mist came to supervise my card making. Normally, I would cut some of this out, but I know you guys like to see the cats. And actually, Ember will show up here pretty quickly, too, to pop in and just make sure that she's seen and is enjoying my card. But yeah, so Mist hung out with me here. She likes to sit in the middle of my desk and be really, really helpful, as you can tell. But I did cut this out, and I have my Switch Plus just off to the left-hand side of my screen there. And I did cut out a vellum heart as well, because I'm going to use that to help kind of ground my sentiment. I felt like it needed its kind of own space to breathe, so I chose to give it just this vellum heart underneath, so it just kind of helped separate it from the background and helped it stand up on its own. And so I layered up the 3 layers of that black cardstock, and then here you see I'm just adding that black glitter cardstock on top. And this is honestly just to give it dimension. You don't need to do this. You could totally do 1 layer if you wanted to, but I like dimension. And because the panel, there's no dimension on the panel itself, it's quite flat, right? All the hearts are quite, like, I didn't even add shading or anything to them, so nothing gives them dimension. I chose to add dimension in the sentiment just for added interest in the card. And of course, I did spell the word love, as you can see. I am going to add a little bit of like a little word you underneath it, so the card actually says love you. And then I think that kind of completed the sentiment. Of course, you could add I if you wanted to. You could leave just love if you wanted to. But I chose, because my last card just said love, I chose to add you on this one. So I just thought that that would kind of finish up that sentiment and kind of give you something that draws your eye that's white as well, because I do have a white card base. Now, of course, you could have a black card base if you wanted to, but I do tend towards white card bases. I just find them easier to write in, and then I can do my little hand stamp on the back that says, made by Ciara Designs or whatnot. So I do tend towards white card bases, but you absolutely could have done a black one. I just chose not to. So I'm going to adhere this down onto my panel, or onto my card base, sorry, because I want to be able to trim my heart off with the whole length of it sitting on top of the card base. So this is where I decided how to adhere this. Because it's vellum, it shows adhesive. So you could, run it through like the Xyron sticker maker if you have one that fits that size. I don't. And you could, have put double-sided tape on it beforehand before cutting it. And because it was the whole shape, you wouldn't really be able to see it as much. I didn't do that either. So I am going to adhere my word where I want it on the heart. And then I'm actually going to add adhesive behind the letters so that you can't see it through the vellum on the card. Even though this does dry matte, you can't see the glue, it dries clear and matte, but on the vellum you can always see it just a touch, and I didn't want that to be a focus. So I kind of lined it up where I wanted it, figured out how I wanted it to lay, and then this is where I just added a thin bit of glue behind my letters, and then I'm going to adhere it down where I want it. So I thought that was the best way to just have it so that you couldn't really see the adhesive through the vellum. And then I brought in just a little sentiment strip. These are those pre-printed sentiment strips that Simon Says Stamp sells. And I had a leftover thank you that I had kind of cut apart at a different time because it had different words in it. So I'm just going to cut the U out of that, and I'm just going to adhere it to the bottom of love. And then I have love you. And of course, here's Ember. She had to come and help me and make sure that my card was being appropriately made, and she does kind of change the focus of my camera a few times. So sorry about that, because she has her tail just floating in front of the camera, but I know you guys like to see the cats, so I do kind of try to leave these in when they're around, just because I think that they're adorable. And then she did sit there for a few minutes just to hang out with me, which I always appreciate. And then because I can never leave enough alone, I do need some extra bling. So I just brought in these black gems. These are from my Pink Fresh Essentials kit, the Essentials Gems kit, and it comes with, I think, like 12 different colors of gems. I love it. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. I've been using those gems for a long time, and I still have tons of them. So that is what I used there, and I just adhered them across the card. I love how this card came together. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you'll let me know what you think. Would you change anything if this was your card? I'd love to know. I'd love to hear about it. So leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. That does tell YouTube that you enjoy my content, so it does really help content creators if you don't mind. And yeah, I do new videos every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much, guys, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye-bye for now.